Nancy has a new scandal. Donald has more money. Stevie's back in town. Mitch has switched from original recipe to extra crispy. And you're getting a second stimulus package. Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Morning's LALATE, the Nets Now most watched morning news show. Thanks for tuning in every day, 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11:30 Eastern Standard Time. Boy, congratulations. What a week it has been. You're made it to the weekend, and incredibly great news if you didn't catch it overnight as I recorded in the thick of darkness. Boy, I have an incredible lot of detail, but you're getting the second stimulus package. I mean, who thought that this would happen just no less than 3 days ago? Incredibly great news from Mitch, from Donald, from Steve, not necessarily Nancy. I have some hot mess expressed for her as well. So thanks for tuning in. Hope the coffee is percolating. If you have some extra bacon on the griddle, save some for me because I'm really in the mood for some bacon. And hope your day is starting well. Happy Catter Day, as always. Let's get right to the news. A second stimulus check deal, package, check. FPUC extension, eviction moratorium, will likely be coming to you in September. This channel first reported the news last night and yesterday evening in some delayed broadcasts as a series of incredibly, insanely good developments developed overnight that we saw nowhere coming. I'm going to go over them broadly for you first, and then I'll go into the incredible specifics. Broadly, one, the man with your checks is coming back into town, and he's talking before a House subcommittee on Tuesday about COVID and about stimulus. His name is Steve Mnuchin, Treasury Secretary Donald Trump. At that time, he'll discuss the amounts and where we are and how we're going to get this done. Two, the bigger great news came out of nowhere when Reuters reported that during that conversation between Mark Meadows and Nancy Pelosi, that Nancy Pelosi really passed off as much of nothing. The president came up with an insanely high offer for a second stimulus package and said he's ready to sign it right now. This is insanely great news. It is nearly almost 3 times the amount of the Republican skinny bill floated last week. Third, Mitch McConnell was all over Kentucky where he's up for re-election and, in a dog race there. And he said the second stimulus package needs to be signed right now. You need to send out the relief right now. I don't know what happened to the old Mitch McConnell, but I'm loving the new one. And then really incredible news about FPUC getting into more places. And then, of course, there's Nancy Pelosi, who issued a series of news statements yesterday and Thursday. And I just, not inebriated, certainly sober, but I went off on her on last night's broadcast saying, I'm tired of the lies, Nancy. The numbers she was floating to the American people were totally untrue, and so I will be covering them as well. So let's get right to the details. Boy, you're going to be getting a second stimulus check. The second stimulus check will be part of the second stimulus package. It won't likely become a standalone bill, as a lot of the parties were talking about all last week. The reason why is because they're now moving to just get this done. It all started as Mark Meadows, Chief of Staff to Donald Trump, said that this would likely come to fruition and come to a finalized deal in September, if not earlier, mid-September, because of a government shutdown due on September 30th. If a balanced budget is not done, if you don't know what I'm talking about, they have to do a balanced budget, the House and the Senate, both houses of Congress. They have to do a balanced budget. If they don't, the government shuts down. So no one thinks that the government can shut down in the middle of a COVID pandemic, and let alone right before an election. So they have to balance the budget. And in balancing the budget, they got to pass a bill. They got to vote on the bill, but they also have to talk about the bill. And that during that talk, that's when the HEROES Act, the HEALS Act, all this chatter about second stimulus will be done. Incredibly great news. So that was the first part of the discussion. If you don't know about timeline, House and Senate come back in session about September 8th, September 15th. So they got to do it very quickly. The second part of the incredible great news came on Thursday and then into Friday, that this coming Tuesday, the man with your checks, literally the man with your checks, Steve Mnuchin, Money Man Mnuchin, is back in town, and he's going to be talking about stimulus. On Tuesday, he will be testifying for the first time publicly before a congressional hearing. You know, he's appeared on CNBC like twice, but not publicly for a congressional hearing about stimulus. This will be before the House's Special Oversight Committee on COVID-19. So this is incredibly great news. My view on negotiations is get things done. Steve Mnuchin has been the voice of reason for us, and he's the one who got you your first stimulus checks if you qualified. He's the person who got you your first round of FPUC if you qualified. He's the person who negotiated with Nancy. They get along. It's just Nancy and Mark Meadows don't get along. Quote, my view on negotiations is that if you agree upon things that you can agree upon, half the legislation, that's good for the American public, and then come back for more money. Hallelujah. I mean, where does this man come from? Let's just, keep him there and just write our checks and give him a pen and paper. It's like, hey, just write the checks, Mark. Steve, just don't leave. Just don't leave. We spent over $1 trillion in areas of the economy that were going to be very impactful now that we can agree upon. If we need to do more, we'll come back and get more. Wow. I mean, this is just incredibly great news. So that was the second part. And as if the great news was not piling on top of that, then came this. As you know, I'll cut to the chase and I'll give you the backstory on it. $1.3 trillion offer. Incredible. A $1.3 trillion raised offer to get a second stimulus deal done was offered by the president on Friday. What happened was, since last Saturday, Mark Meadows, chief of staff to Donald Trump, while the RNC convention was going on, was trying to get Nancy Pelosi to talk. She wouldn't answer his calls. He went to her office. She wouldn't come to the door. He texted her. She wouldn't respond. He sent her a bouquet of day-old bagels from Chuck Schumer's town. Said, hey, maybe this works with Chuck. Maybe it works with you. And she still didn't respond. So finally he got her on the phone, and they spoke for 25 minutes. Before they spoke, Nancy Pelosi said, I want to tell press what's going to go on. It was really, it was really tacky, and it was very unprofessional. Before you have a negotiation discussion on the phone scheduled that everyone knows is happening, that she did not want you to know was actually going to happen. Remember this. He was the one that told press that it was going to happen. She had a press conference to say, this is a waste of time. I don't know where this negative Nancy thing started, but it's really sort of overwhelming at that point. So she held the press conference. She said, I don't know what his name is, whatever his name is, referring to the chief of staff, Mark Meadows. And then it occurred. Then they had the press. Then they had the meeting on the phone, 25 minutes. She immediately, right as soon as the meeting was over, sent out another press release. Said nothing happened, waste of time. He's a this and he's a that. I mean, really, a lot of dirt digging. I mean, just really not professional. But as I called her last night on the broadcast, I said, I'm tired of her lies. I really am. So the point I made in, I think it was the morning broadcast yesterday, is we still had not heard from Mark Meadows what happened during that meeting. We only heard her version of the story, which now we know not to inherently believe. So yesterday, Meadows told Reuters, and if you don't know what Reuters is, it's one of the two major news syndicate news wire services, that and AP, Associated Press. He told Reuters, President came up an enormous amount of money, $1.3 trillion. Let me explain how big that is. The skinny bill from the Republicans, which is not a bill but a proposal and was floated all last week, floated the week before, never introduced to Congress at all, but still floated, is at $500 billion. The prior offer was $1 trillion. The president came in at $1.3 trillion. So if you're looking at the skinny bill just days before, the president basically tripled it. If you're looking at the HEALS Act, the president came up $3 billion more than the HEALS Act, which is the Republican proposal, about 3 weeks ago. And if you look at the CARES Act, the first stimulus check round, that was $2 trillion. What's incredible, and I got to say, it was 2 trillion because a lot of it was bailouts of businesses, which is not in this stimulus package. You got to understand bailout, and I'm getting that in a second, like airlines, 25 billion for an airlines and 55 billion for you and 65. That's not in this stimulus package. This is more about people and county and city, and children going hungry. That's why this one should inherently not be $2 trillion, because there's just a lot of the stuff on the first stimulus package is not in this one. So the 1.3 trillion is incredibly great news. It's incredibly great news. Let me explain where Nancy is out on Fantasy Island. The plane is arriving. The plane. I mean, she started with 3.3 trillion, insanely ridiculous, insane number. It's really, and I'll get to the number in a second, but then she said, I will settle this if you come up to a number. No one tells people ever, ever in negotiations, I'll settle you if you give me this number. You can offer a number in your accord, but you don't tell someone else what to offer you. I mean, it's one, it's rude. Two, no one negotiates that way. Three, it never is successful. So she said to the Republicans, come up $1 trillion. You can't tell people to do things, Nancy. It doesn't work that way. She said she'll come down to 2.3 trillion. Well, that's not going to happen either. 2.3 trillion is an inept number. Now, clearly the CARES Act was a 2. When this channel was smaller, which was, a month ago. We had 100 subscribers, which is, 2 months ago. We detailed that there was a lot of talks at that time that the president was happy to settle at 1.5 trillion. We're at 1.3 right now, and that may go to 2 trillion, but was likely to settle somewhere between 2 trillion and 1.5. I mean, you're basically there. You're done. No one in their right mind thinks that the Democrats are going to hold out for 2.3 trillion. It's just not going to happen. No one thinks that 2.3 is the deal or no deal number. It's just not going to happen. So everyone thinks that somewhere between 1.5 and 2 is the deal number. I've been reporting it for several weeks. I'm going to stay with it. So you're literally, on the cusp, light on the cusp of the number. This is incredibly great news. Last night on evenings LALATE, the last final broadcast where I'm literally in the darkness because the sun was dropping, I did a special broadcast explaining the routing times that you would take into consideration to receive your check, to receive FPUC, and to receive an eviction moratorium. Go watch that video. It's the last one that has the evenings LALATE thumbnail for it. Under the second stimulus package deal, you're going to get a $1,200 second stimulus check. You're going to get it whether you're independent or whether you're a solo or a dependent, whether you file your own tax returns or depend on someone else's tax return, whether you're an adult dependent or minor dependent. All indications suggest that the Republicans will come up to $1,200 for dependents, even though they offered $500. Married couples, $2,400. Family of 5, $6,000. Child support likely not to be taken out for child support because that's what the Democrats proposed, but that does not preclude you from or prevent you from trying to recoup the child support in a local court, in a local jurisdiction. So there you go. Nancy, however, is off with a new scandal today. I mean, really? I mean, it's Catter Day, Nancy. Just go pet the pussy. I mean, Even Morris the cat is tired with you. I mean, Grumpy Cat is just about like enough already, Nancy. I was grumpy with you last week. Now I'm really grumpy with you. I mean, Tom and Jerry are about Tom and Jerry about to get Bugs and Elmer the Fog to deal with you. Elmer, what's his last name? To get Elmer involved and just get this done with you because it's just ridiculous. Pelosi has gone from Postal to now Pompeo. I can't believe I'm reporting this. Her group, the Democrat-led House Foreign Affairs Committee, announced they're doing new proceedings for another scandal next week for Mike Pompeo. Whether they're going to have another standalone bill for that? Is Carolyn Maloney going to write another standalone bill for that and get it approved by, and they're going to call them all back into town and just do a standalone bill for Mike Pompeo? I mean, no one sees what's going on. I do. Next, why is Nancy really being so disingenuous? AKA liar. Why is Nancy just not being truthful? Yesterday, at the end of the day, she issued her usual press release, and LALATE obtained it. I ran it on camera. First, I'm not joking. I'm actually telling, I'm not embellishing for the purpose of a joke. She mentions children going hungry all throughout the press release. She mentions the word children, I think, on page 1, page 2, page 3. I mean, there's children mentioned in every line. She signs it talking about children, and she adds a P.S. How about this about the children? I don't, it's just what's going on with her? But the more important thing was her failure to reveal to the American public where the negotiations were on numbers, what her numbers were, and what the numbers offers were on the other side. I blasted her on camera last night because she said Steve Mnuchin offered $250,000 only for food, which is absolutely categorically untrue. Steve Mnuchin appeared on Squawk Box, CNBC, the morning news broadcast, financial news broadcast with David Faber and Jim Cramer, like over 3 weeks ago. And he went over all the numbers. Remember, I did them on camera for you. I offer this, I offer this. He clearly delineated for purposes of food and food stamps, he offered millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. So for her to talk about $250,000, it's just not honest. I don't know why. What she's doing here basically is she's continually telling you what Republicans offered, 2 months ago when Mitch McConnell was not the Mitch McConnell he was today. You can do that if you tell us what you're saying, but you're saying it as though it's the current offer on the table. It's not. It really is not. And so that's what's very disconcerting. Next, the other thing about her press release yesterday is it doesn't talk about numbers. And this has really been the core issue. P.S. Best regards, Nancy. P.S. For the children, please participate in a day of action next week. And above that, thank you for considering me and the children. And above that, it's essential for the children, paragraph 5. Let's go to paragraph 3. I mean, I can keep on going through this press release, but it's just... is this her staff that's writing this? I don't know who's writing this. But the other thing that's very disconcerting to me, as I try to do financial news for you, is there's no financial numbers in here. She continually doesn't give you numbers on anything. The one few items of really great news in her press release was, finally, with a triple exclamation point and all caps, she talked about essential workers, hazard pay. My goodness. It's just, she's obviously been watching the show. I've been saying, hey, how many weeks are we going to go with Nancy Pelosi, who wrote the hazard pay bill, not talking about hazard pay? And she says, for the contempt of state, local, tribal, and territorial governments endangers health and care workers, first responders, and other frontline workers, in addition to teachers. Support for teachers and education are essential for the children. Yeah, it did end with the children again, but I think the point is that, she was going good in the sentence when she was talking about hazard pay until she got to the children again. The interesting thing is the following. Where are we on deal numbers, and how quickly and how soon will this occur, and what will you get for the other things? Well, FPUC, I got to tell you, I think I'm seeing in the comments, keep them coming, I see in the comments a lot of questions about how FPUC 2.0, which is what I'm going to refer to, the new round of FPUC, not LWA. LWA is just LWA. The prior FPUC is FPUC, but the new one is FPUC 2.0. How will FPUC 2.0 work? And I gotta make this very clear to you. First, I have been reporting for upwards of 4 weeks, and I'm not changing the reporting, that the deal will reach an FPUC agreement of somewhere between $400 to $600 per week. That's the first thing. The amounts will be retroactive to the date at which FPUC 1.0, the prior FPUC, expired. That's the second thing. Third, a lot of people ask me this as well. There will not be a $100 minimum on FPUC 2.0. That was that strange LWA provision that was created by the executive order of the president. That's not going to happen. Fourth, now let's figure out how it gets routed to you and how all these things sort of work out. First, if you received LWA at all, it's going to get deducted from the amount that FPUC is going to pay under FPUC 2.0. So, for example, FPUC 2.0 week 1, the first week of the new FPUC 2.0, if you did get LWA for that week and it's $300, it would just be deducted. So if the new FPUC 2.0 is $500, then you'll get $200. That's the really great news. The other great news is that these processing amounts are very quick. Steve Mnuchin for stimulus checks says that it will land to your bank account within about 10 days after it becomes law. From FPUC, I can now report that it looks like it would likely land in your bank account within 7 days after it becomes law. The states have really ramped up the stuff very quickly. If you're on LWA, you're getting these benefits quicker, faster, and retroactively and in lump sum. I mean, that's been incredibly great news. If you're not watching Afternoons LALATE, the third broadcast, it's on unemployment only. It's only on unemployment. Please watch that. I cover LWA, I cover UI, FPUC 1, FPUC 2.0. There's a lot of nuances and incredibly great news, and I'm going over it with you in that. Next, the thing that could really push the envelope to getting the stimulus done even sooner, even more so than the government shutdown, is what's this federal law about furloughing. Yeah, I mean, no one tells you this except me, as you know. This is what the purple power does for all of you. When you have the purple power, when you have the information, you're empowered. This is what's so important to understand. There's a federal rule that says if you furlough people, you have to, within, I believe it's 6 months, inform them whether or not you're going to bring them back or lay them off, aka fire them. In the case of United Airlines, they announced, in the case of Caesars, MGM Las Vegas, they announced massive layoffs yesterday after they had furloughed those people for 30 days, after they had furloughed them. Those timelines are coming up. And the president is really unhappy about this furlough to unemployment situation that's happening. One of the ones that's really a key is the airlines, who the president is now up in arms with. And basically, to cut to the chase, is Mark Meadows said yesterday and all this week that the president is about to issue a lot of executive orders because he doesn't like what airlines and other companies are doing that got $25 billion for the first stimulus package, didn't use the money as it was allocated to keep you employed as essential workers, hazard pay, but laid you off or furloughed you. And now, as we come up to that furlough deadline, they're deciding, we're not bringing you back, we're firing you. And guess what? Not only they're not firing you, or not only they're firing you, they're not giving you money from the first stimulus check round. They're coming back for more stimulus. $25 billion more is being asked by United, American, Delta, and Southwest. The airlines are back. President is up at arms, really royally pissed, and saying, hey, I'm going to do a lot of things by executive order. If I don't start seeing progress on second stimulus, executive orders are coming right across the corridor. So, boy, it's a great morning. It's a great morning. I thank you for tuning in. Do me a couple favors. I mean, this is a good video. Look how much I have on set. I mean, I literally have 40-something pages of economic data that I couldn't even get to because I don't want this recording to go 65 minutes. But this is an incredible great day of incredibly great news. So hit that like button. It helps the algorithm. The evening broadcast, boy, I mean, it hasn't even been like 4 hours, 5 hours. Well, maybe it's been about 6 hours, and we're at 11,000 likes. So please like the video. It helps the algorithm so that our videos go first, and other people that do this and this and this don't rank. Last night's video is currently ranking #1 for second stimulus. This channel is now the most watched second stimulus check channel online because of you. It's absolutely because of you. We're beating everyone. So let's keep it up. Go to the front of this channel and hit the subscribe and alert button so you get an alert when a new video goes live. And finally, join me this afternoon, Afternoons LA, always start at 3:30 with first the check, hazard pay, then FPUC unemployment. If you have questions about unemployment, please watch that video because I'm going over incredible detail for you, and I'm trying to answer all your questions as well. And finally, rent, and then Evenings LA starts around 6:45. As always, have a great Saturday. Hope the bacon didn't burn. Have a great Saturday morning. And as always, stay informed, stay motivated, stay smiling. More purple power to you, and stay with Alec for more.